Hey, Slapdog! The Brainiacs are ready.
Welcome into LeatherBrainz. Your host, Slapdog, here, and I am joined with the full crew today. We got Scotty Del Rey and Alan Casanova Castro. Gentlemen, it's great to all be under one roof. Today, we're going to be talking about some NFL news, and then we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to do something fun. We're going to rank the top 10 quarterbacks, are currently what we believe to be the top 10 quarterbacks if we were starting an NFL franchise today. After that, we might look at some of these quarterbacks' mothers and rank them as well. So excited to do that. But before we get into any of this, I do want to let everybody know March Gladness is still going on. We are giving away a free signed Kyren Williams jersey. It is so dang easy to get entered. All you got to do is go follow us over on YouTube at LeatherBrainz, and then over on X, you just have to comment or retweet the tweet and then comment your username on YouTube so we can verify that you did follow us. And then you will get entered to win a free signed Kyren Williams jersey. Doesn't get any easier. So this is the last week of March Gladness. We're trying to spread some joy and love over to the Brainiac community. So once again, a free signed Kyren Williams jersey for the last week here of March Gladness. Let's get into it, gentlemen. This is probably the best breaking news that I could give all season long. I don't care what happens after this moment. Our true love, our favorite quarterback, or my favorite quarterback in the NFL, Jameis Winston himself, has signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Giants. I could not have been happier with this landing spot because I love Jameis. I think you guys love Jameis. I think in large the Brainiac community loves Laser Jameis. And what better place for him to have an opportunity to probably see the field this year than with the New York Giants? What was your thoughts when you saw this news break, gentlemen?
I don't know this for a fact, but I have suspicions now that I might be able to see the future because I read this headline and I was hit like Raven Simone in That's So Raven with this flash. I almost went unconscious, and I saw Laser Jameis holding a Super Bowl trophy.
Oh my God.
Wearing New York Giants attire. Like, I think it might be the greatest storyline in sports history if Laser Jameis rekindles his career with this version of the New York Giants. Like, I would be so ecstatic. It would be amazing.
Oh, that's one thing we don't like on this podcast is hyperbole. I like this.
You might want to go see a doctor, Scotty, because you might have just had a stroke. I don't know if it was a vision into the future.
It's either a tumor or I can see the future.
He's got kinetic powers and he can see the future with his tumor. My initial reaction, and I thought about this because with the draft quickly approaching, it's always like, okay, now what is this? How does this inform their draft? And I was like, I wonder who they take. And then I saw a lot of people were tweeting is like, well, now they definitely have to take Travis Hunter from Colorado, because not only if he's a wide receiver, he could go up and catch it, but then since he's such a good DB, it's probably going to be an interception, so he can quick turn around and play defense as well. So I imagine that's where they'll want to go to help save Jameis from himself. So I wonder if they do that, if we actually see his interception totals go down just because Travis Hunter is out there helping defend him. Even if it wasn't the ball to him, he just kind of sees where it's going and he plays it like a DB and runs over there and swats it away.
Swats it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, or at the very least, you have someone who can make the tackle. If you're going to have Jameis Winston as your starting quarterback, you want to have a defensive player on the offensive side of the ball at all times.
Yeah, I think it's smart.
I agree. I think it's really smart. It is worth noting that the Giants are still interested in Aaron Rodgers. So I think that really the conversation at hand now is if Aaron Rodgers is interested in the Giants. It is worth noting Aaron Rodgers did meet with the Steelers these last few days and has been in the facilities for over 6 hours meeting with them. So I think we know where his priorities lie, and it's not with the Giants. But I think if he doesn't land with the Steelers, I think the Giants are the last place looking for a quarterback, and what better spot for him to land than with the Giants?
Admittedly, if there was a pie chart that was trying to depict the content of the conversations that he had over a 6-hour interview with the Steelers, how much of that do you think is football versus ayahuasca and esoteric theological ideas?
I'd say at least 20% of it was that, because Mike Tomlin's going to sit there and be like, "Are we going to have to deal with this bullshit all off season and into the season?" And also, we did trade and get DK Metcalf, so we've got a lot of personality already. Are we going to be able to sustain the personality of Aaron Rodgers as well? So I think that pie chart is probably large in that category, Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this about Jameis, though. I mean, look, at this current juncture, Jameis Winston's the starting quarterback for the Giants. They did re-sign Tommy Cutlett, so they have a QB. They don't have any QBs, but they have Jameis Winston, which is great. At the very least, this was a great move for the front office to be able to sell jerseys, because we all love Jameis Winston, and I imagine they will sell some jerseys there. The other thing is, Jameis Winston is not afraid to rip it. And I know we were jesting about Travis Hunter, but what does this do for Malik Neighbors? I mean, this is, in large, I think this actually isn't the worst thing in the world from if you want to go down the weeds of fantasy football. This is great for Malik Neighbors, because you know that they don't have any other wide receivers, and he's going to get peppered with a lot of targets from Jameis. So I like this signing, and like I said, I think this affords Jameis Winston the opportunity to be on the field, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, listen, I think if I was a GM or if I'm in the front office, if we're not going to win, I'd at least like the product to be fun on the field. And I think with Jameis, I think that's what you're going to get. I think it's really tough for Giants fan to like show up for Daniel Jones, because it's just like a wet blanket on the team. You're like, this is gross. I don't want to watch this. But I think with Jameis, at least he's going to air it out. He's going to shoot you in, like basketball terminology. I know it's March Madness. He's going to shoot you into a game, and he's going to shoot you right out of a game. Like, he's either going to win it for you big or win it late, or he's going to be the reason you lost. But I think they're okay with that right now, because I think that's what this team needs, some sort of like fun identity, because everything looked so like painstakingly like tough and like arduous and like this like moving through the season. And you had the Hard Knocks off-season drama where they didn't get Saquon, and then Saquon had a season of all seasons with the Eagles, capped off with a Super Bowl. It was just like they need something to like just get that taste out of their mouth. And I think if you're Malik Neighbors, I think you're like, cool, I'm not getting the MVP of the league. I'm not getting somebody that's going to do that, but he's going to sure shit try, and he's going to try to get me the ball. And I think that's what you want. And he's definitely has all the confidence in the world. The thing I like about this move is they definitely need to do Hard Knocks. If they got Rodgers, like Hard Knocks should just follow them around nonstop, like just whatever, like 24 hours unfiltered camera. Just let me see everything that's going on. That's kind of like if you think about shows, Jameis Winston's kind of like got plot armor. He can do whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants now, because everybody knows he's a goofball. Like, it doesn't matter. He could throw.
Oh, they're going to be interviewing him before games and after games. Like, you think of when he was with the Browns, and it's like, it was a snowstorm, and he's like, the good Lord has delivered us from above, or whatever, and like the clock strikes midnight, and the cavalry comes, and it's like, what is going on? Like, we're playing football, buddy. But it's good comedy, and it's good entertainment, and I think for the Giants, that's about the best you're going to get at the moment. So why not go chips all in?
100%. And we also, like, when you have a star like Malik Neighbors, there's always a concern that with lackluster quarterback play, or just the team's kind of in disarray, that it's going to ruin his, like, put a bad taste in his mouth with this franchise and make his relationship with them worse and probably short-lived. And someone like Jameis, like, I know we joke around a lot about him, but that's actually one of his strengths. There has not been a locker room that doesn't love Jameis Winston, and he lifts the spirits everywhere he goes. And on top of that, he's, like Alan said, he's kind of got this Donald Trump effect on him, where it's like, you're not surprised by anything he says anymore, and the cameras just want to be on him. So you're going to have, like, all sorts of press about your organization. Like, it's just, this is why it was so silly that so many teams didn't consider Jameis, like, a long time ago. Like, why is this such a late headline in this process? It seems like even if you're signing him as a backup, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And congratulations, Laser Jameis. Hashtag Jabu wins. We love you, and we're excited to watch you play for the Giants this year. This is, I would not have gotten excited to watch the Giants whatsoever, but now, like, I'm probably still not, but because Jameis is playing, I'm definitely going to watch a couple games. So.
Okay, at least considering being excited.
Quick question then, as we talk about these two guys. Let me see. So Jameis, looking at Sam Darnold and Jameis Winston, I just want to look at their contracts, because now that we have it all on the table, now it's who do you want to lead your team? So
Sam
you got-
Darnold's on a 3-year, 106.
Yeah,
I wanna
100.
say?
It's like 100. Yeah, 100 million. And Jameis just signed a 2-year, $8 million contract.
Give me Jameis Winston every
Like,
day.
Well,
seriously, like,
100%.
dollars and cents wise, like, also, like I said it last time, Sam Darnold's a goober, and Jameis Winston's fun. So I'd rather have the fun guy for $8 million versus the weird guy for 100. So
Especially in the Seahawks situation. Like,
Yeah.
I talked about it a little bit in the last episode, but it's like it just doesn't really make any. They sold everybody, and then they're like, all right, let's go pay $100 million for this guy who might be okay in a time when we're rebuilding anyway. Like, why? Why would you do that?
yeah,
No, I
this is
agree completely.
genius.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the Giants. You did something right. Yeah, I'm once again not super excited for you, but excited for Jameis. So therefore, I'm slightly excited for your organization as well. Brandin Cooks, he rejoins the Saints. So if nobody knew this, Brandin Cooks, he was actually drafted by the Saints in 2014. He's played for a lot of different teams throughout his career, to include the Patriots, Rams, Texans, and Cowboys. And he signs a 2-year deal with the Saints. He's 31 years old. So admittedly, I thought Cooks was on his way out, but it seems as if the Saints will take any wide receivers they can get at this point. So a hometown reunion of sorts for Brandin Cooks. I did want to touch on this a little bit because I do find this kind of interesting. So the Colts linebacker Zaire Franklin, he discussed the competition or the quarterback battle for the Colts with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones for the starting quarterback role. While Richardson's first 2 seasons have been less than stellar, Zaire Franklin believes competition will bring out the best in him. He pointed to examples like Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield finding success after changing teams. So he thinks that this could kind of create a competition of sorts for both these quarterbacks to try and showcase that they have what it takes to be the starting quarterback for the Colts. I don't know how I feel about this, and I'll let you guys touch on this first because I have personal interest in Anthony Richardson being on my dynasty team, so I'm hoping he works out. But I don't hate this. I don't think Daniel Jones is a world breaker, but I also am of the belief that Anthony Richardson hasn't either. And there was kind of some conversations last season about Richardson's character and his work ethic, and he came off the field because he was tired. And he's not really putting in the work. So cause for concern there, question mark?
Yeah, I think Daniel Jones obviously has a good head on his shoulders. Like he works hard, like for all the shit we give him about not being great. Like I don't think he was ever a distraction for the team or he detracted it anyway. Like he obviously went and punched his card and went to work. And I think it's kind of up to, anytime you're delivering a message, it's up to the recipient to actually like receive that message and put it to you. So if Anthony Richardson's willing to like learn from him how to be a professional, I think that's part of it. I think we take for granted that these guys are playing a sport and like that's all they're doing. But there's a lot of cadence to it all. There's structure. How do you be a professional? How do I perform? How do I show up? How do I lead? And all that kind of stuff. And I think Daniel Jones, like, while he's probably not going to teach him how to be the best quarterback in the world, like I do think there's definitely something to be said for learning how to be a professional. And I think Richardson kind of got thrown into the fire. I don't know if he got the best coaching. I don't know if he had the best leadership and mentors on the team. We saw what happened to that Colts team down the stretch. Anytime you have Pat McAfee abandoning ship on your team, that's never great because he's loyal till the nth degree. So I think this could be good. And I there's a lot of truth in what he's saying. I think that you can learn a lot from each other and kind of rekindle things. So it'll definitely be interesting because I'm happy that you brought up Anthony Richardson as far as your dynasty team goes, because I do think he has a ton of tools to be great. I think somebody's just got to show him how to use them to be great. I think he's trying to figure that out on its own, and I don't know if he'll be able to do that on his own. So hopefully this will give him kind of like a shot in the arm of here's when to lean on my rocket arm, and here's when I should probably like check down or make the quick call at the line of scrimmage and get out of this play and hand it off. And so they definitely have the talent. I think if they can hone in that position, obviously be great.
Yeah, my mind kind of went to a similar thing of sort of like a big brother or a tutor relationship with Daniel Jones there. And one of the things that maybe isn't as obvious that he is perfectly capable of teaching Anthony Richardson about, which is a lesson that he needs to learn quickly based on how his career's gone so far, is how to deal with negative attention. Because we've seen so many times these athletes come in, they're on top of the world, they're the best of the best in their sport all the way through college, that they get to the NFL, they get a reality check or they get injured, and then it spirals. And it happens all the time. I mean, the average NFL career is like, 4 years or something like that? So it happens more often than not. And Anthony Richardson being a starting quarterback and having a lot of upside, he gets a lot of that negative attention. And hopefully having someone like Daniel Jones in there who can say, hey, it's not the end of the world. People are going to hate. You just got to go out and keep your mind on business and do your thing. I think that could be really, really beneficial for Anthony Richardson. I don't know him. Maybe he's already perfectly capable of that, but certainly it doesn't hurt. As far as the starting role, obviously with the Colts investing like they did in Anthony Richardson, you would expect him to be the favorite outside of injury or just significant collapse. But the leash is getting shorter every year. And so having someone like Daniel Jones, both of them have injury history, so it's good to have two capable guys in the locker room that can step up kind of at any given time. I would expect Anthony Richardson to pretty much lock up the starting spot, but depending on how it looks on the field, they know they have someone they can fall back on now, which is good. So I think it's a good signing for the team. I think they should be pretty happy about it.
Well, you answered the question I was going to ask, Scotty, is do you think Richardson will be the quarterback week 1? So I'll pose that question to you, Alan.
My gut says no. But not because he didn't earn it. I wonder if they're just going to, because they did a lot last year. It's kind of like yo-yoing him in and out. Like, oh, he's there, he's not there. I think they give Daniel Jones a shot since he's done this before. Because there's obviously something to be said. I think we're throwing dirt on Daniel Jones too. Like, oh, it's done. Like the book's written on him. But I think this is much about Daniel Jones and what he brings to the table. Because one thing that Daniel Jones has done is he's showing he can do it, like physically, like he can produce on the field. It's just, can he do that again? And I wonder if the Colts are going to kind of be wondering the same thing. Like, could you do that thing you did a few years ago? Could you do that one more time? Or is that it? And then I think once they get that answer to that question, I think then you'll see a transition like, hey, Daniel, appreciate it. We're going to give it to Anthony. We're going to let him run with it now. Because I think that's one thing you don't want to do this year that you did last year, which is put him out there and then realize it's not good, then pull him back, and then Daniel Jones sucks, and you put him back out there because you're just doing the exact same thing. I think you start with Daniel Jones, see if he can deliver again, let Richardson continue to develop, get some more coaching, and then put him in because he's obviously the future. But that's how I would do it if I was coaching that team.
Okay, well, and that I'm glad that you went against the grain as far as that mentality is concerned, because it is also worth noting Tomlin and the Steelers did call the Colts about a potential trade option. They said he's not on the table, which all signs indicate that they still believe that they potentially could get something out of Richardson. But I'm glad you brought up the whole yo-yo thing, because that was something that was kind of mind-boggling from a viewership standpoint. Was you have Joe Flacco come in, and then he plays a game, and then they're like, all right, this week we're going to go with Richardson, and then they put him out for 2 weeks, and like we're going back to Flacco. And it kind of, you talk about identity, and it was kind of like, what is the identity of this team, and what are you looking to accomplish here, and what are you looking to build here? And so in the event that they do roll Daniel Jones out to begin the season, and let's say he's playing okay, he's not playing lights out and not a world breaker, but he's playing okay. Do you think that, they will look to eventually move on from him, or if he's still winning them games, but it's maybe in spite of Daniel Jones's performance, is it going to be the hot hand approach to begin the season, in your opinion, and then kind of go from there?
It's interesting because I think the question I think they're asking themselves as a front office, and I'll ask you both, kind of ask question with a question, like, do you think they have the future quarterback in that room right now? And I don't know if they know that or not.
That's what I was going to say. Is I don't think they know that, and I think that's why they haven't traded Richardson.
Yeah.
I think if they were seriously entertaining offers, I think that's a clear indication that they believe that he's not their guy. But the fact that they haven't, they've stuck true with, hey, we're not really interested in trading him, tells me, okay, you don't know if you have your guy, and that's why you signed Daniel Jones as well.
Yeah, almost like stocks. You want to sell high. So whichever these guys you're going to move, you want to kind of identify that pretty early on and then sell them high. I'm almost wondering if they want Daniel Jones to kind of be a Band-Aid to see if they can get Richardson up to speed and then sell off Daniel Jones to somebody else that can take him and then work through it again. I don't think Daniel Jones is the answer long-term there. I think we've seen what he can and can't do and what his limitations are, and I don't think that's what the Colts need. I think they do need a playmaker there. I think that team kind of thrives on having somebody there. I think Richardson is it. I think what they do is they get Daniel Jones some time, switch it out, and then maybe trade him or cut him or trade him before either deadline. I don't know how long Daniel Jones' contract is, but that's what I would play that. I would just like build one asset up, sell it off high, and then move on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of come to a different conclusion on that, and I said it already, but I think you start with Richardson because he is now at the point in his career, first of all, he's got to prove that he can stay healthy, which I'm not sure that he certainly hasn't done that yet. But also, like, you knew when you drafted him, he was a bit of a project, and at a certain point, the leash gets too short. At a certain point, you say, okay, this project is no longer worth investing in. Certainly the upside is high, the athleticism is there, but I think they have to give him an opportunity to show real strides and show real improvement. Otherwise, it would be wise for them to start looking to move on from Anthony Richardson, and now they have Daniel Jones, who is we have to remember that even though he was lackluster, to say the least, he was playing for the Giants. So it's like his upside is still kind of unknown. I mean, we saw a great season from him, but you put him on a team with actual weapons, you put him on a team, with some opportunities, and maybe he can be an above average quarterback, or at least an average quarterback. So my personal thought is start with Anthony Richardson. You give him some time throughout the season, and if he just looks pathetic or he can't stay healthy, time to move on. Now you have Daniel Jones. He effectively works as that bridge quarterback while you figure out your future again.
Yeah, and it you talking about a leash, Alan. We're coming on year 3 of his rookie contract, so yeah, they're going to have to figure something out by the end of this year as far as what their future looks like, whether it be with or without him.
Scotty, you touched on something that's super important to this discussion, because I think we're basing this all on skill, but they always say the best ability is availability, and if he can't stay healthy, then that's kind of it too for him, or too, right? Like that's going to be the tell-all. That's something I wasn't necessarily baking into the plan, but that makes sense going that route as well if you're concerned about his health long-term and his ability to stay healthy, because he certainly plays a certain way. You're not going to be able to coach that out of him.
Yeah, I mean, he uses his legs, and he's good at it, but that also leads to potential injury. Najee Harris, I mentioned identity earlier. Najee Harris, in an interview, Harris reflected on his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers, stating that the offense lacked identity after the transition from Roethlisberger to Morgan Wallen, a.k.a. Kenny Pickett. He noted that there were few veteran leaders to learn from, and the team was young, and Harris is now joining the Chargers, where he looks forward to learning from experience of vets. So I don't think this is necessarily surprising at all. I think we as fans and plugged into the NFL as we are, you could see it. You could see it from a mile away that the Steelers had no offensive identity. So I do have to ask though, do you guys think Najee's going to find success with the Chargers? He's on a 1-year deal. I
guess the parameter, what does success mean? I think he'll be more successful, because I think he'll have more opportunities. And I think, listen, that quarterback, it affords you opportunities to do more things. And for all the shit we give Herbert, I think he's going to help free things up for Najee to be maybe able to run a little bit more effectively. Because I know we were burying him a few years back, and then last year he kind of showed up and was like, oh, never mind. He's actually kind of productive. He's not, totally lost. And so I think he'll be more effective, I guess is probably the right word. I don't know about overall productivity, because you just never know, but I think he'll be more effective. I think his running will be more effective. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a higher average.
Let me rephrase the question then, and maybe ground it a little bit more. Do you think he'll be more effective than J.K. Dobbins was this year?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I just kind of betting. I think he seems hungry. He seems to have figured out building off of a good year last year. I wouldn't be surprised, because he definitely has the talent.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, is I wouldn't be surprised. It's interesting because normally you'd say, okay, you have a running back who's had kind of ups and downs in his career. Now he's going with Jim Harbaugh. This is a team that I think is looking up, whereas the Steelers were just kind of lost, let alone identity. They just didn't really know what their team was or how they were going to produce or with who they were going to compete. So when you go to the Chargers, you sort of have a new sense of optimism, and whether or not that's valid, but we'll see. But you get the sense that someone who walks into that locker room is going to have more optimism about their future. But what I was going to say is it's interesting because in that situation, you say Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh can get the best out of anybody, but Najee, was with Mike Tomlin, who we would also say could get the best out of anybody. So it's just we're going to have to wait and see. I'm interested to see how he meshes with this team, but ultimately I think, he should be happy with the landing spot. I think it affords him the opportunity to revitalize his career and become a better version of himself.
Okay. We mentioned Aaron Rodgers earlier. NBC Sports is reporting it is a safe bet that Rodgers lands with the Steelers. I tend to agree. I mean, he's been in that facility for what feels like an eternity at this point, and the Steelers don't have a quarterback, right? And so I think that, Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers, I believe, are roughly the same age, so they're probably playing charades together, or not charades, but solitaire. And they're
one-on-one game of charades.
Yeah. Sick. I'm not surprised by this, and I do think Rodgers lands with the Steelers as well, because they still don't have a quarterback, and he's kind of the last, one of the last ones to be touted around as a potential. And Russell Wilson still hasn't signed, has he?
Yeah, he went out. Didn't he? Or no, is he still looking?
I think he's still looking.
Is he still looking? I think Rodgers, the biggest thing with Rodgers, because this came up with the Jets, this has to be a sticking point, and I know this wouldn't fly with Tomlin, but it's like Rodgers' disdain for like training camp.
Yeah.
And that's very obviously what that team needs. That team needs some like gelling. It needs some practice time together and all. It's like, is Rodgers willing to do that or not? Because I know Tomlin would prefer that, right? Like any coach would prefer that my team gets that time to gel, but you know how Rodgers.
But ayahuasca, man. I mean,
I'm just going to show up and rip it. And like we saw how that went. So I don't know.
I can't get it out of my head that, with the amount of personality that would be in that, there's already a lot there. And if Aaron Rodgers goes in, that just takes it to the next level. I know that in all likelihood, they're, with a Mike Tomlin team, they're going to be just kind of average. But it seems like it's a boom or bust situation. Like you get Aaron Rodgers and DK and Pickens all in the same room, and it's either going to be electric or it's going to be a fucking dumpster fire.
God, I wish Hard Knocks was going to go there. God, if he signed there, that would be amazing if Hard Knocks went to the Steelers.
They can't go there though, can they?
I know.
Because they're a playoff team.
But nobody wants. No NFL team is really interested in doing Hard Knocks after the Giants last season.
After they fucked the Giants.
Yeah.
But it was awesome.
It was awesome. And we're still talking about it a year later, and it's like, that's what you want out of that show, right? Whether it be good, bad, or ugly, like.
True.
All press is good press.
I think the NFL would prefer the human stories where it's like, will this guy make the roster or not? Not like, let's shit all over this GM because he traded away one of the best players. That's probably not what they were going for, but it worked because you're right, people are still talking about it. I think you're right, though. That would, like I said, that'd be Tomlin's, greatest opus now. Like, I know that he had Roethlisberger and, AB and Le'Veon Bell and all of the craziness that came out of that. But, I mean, Rodgers, DK, and Pickens all under one roof, like trying to play together that's quite the tall task. I think maybe Tomlin's had enough, and he's like, how do I get fired the quickest? Like, I don't want to step away, but I'd like to get fired. I would like somebody.
I mean, Steelers fans are calling for, and I won't say all Steelers fans, but there's a good portion of Steelers fans that want Tomlin gone, and I'm like, why?
Be
like,
careful.
What better alternative? I know. I'm like, look, man, I get it. Y'all are hungry and you want to go win a championship, but like, you still are in the playoffs every year. Like, you're still
there's one good argument though, and it's that Mike Tomlin's above average coaching has kept them from building a roster for like his entire tenure since.
That's not his problem. That's the front office's problem.
But that's what I'm saying. The fans would be saying, like, hey, I love that you're winning 9 games a season, but that is really keeping us from drafting number 1. So maybe we need to move on to the next chapter and suck for a while so we can rebuild.
You're just getting us Kenny Pickett's. We want nothing else. We'd rather have another way. That's 100% a front office. I think, you look at Howie Roseman and the Eagles. Like, you want to win now. There's a way to do it, and there's certainly a blueprint. And they have like some future cap struggles that they'll have to sort through. But like, hey, they won. Like, that's what you want. You want to try to win now. That's certainly something to be said. And as being, no secret, we're from the Midwest and Nebraska, and we're big Nebraska fans, and seeing what everybody was kind of wishing and hoping for. Like, just be careful what you wish for, because you could go 10, 15, 20 years down the line and have really nothing to show for it, and now you're really frustrated. So I would say just hang tight. But Rodgers going there would certainly be juicy.
Yeah, fuck you, Scott Frost. Jayden Daniels, his mother, is protecting Jayden Daniels from eventually one day obtaining a prenup. I don't know if you guys saw this video clip of Daniels. He was at a USC game, I believe, and he was talking with a female basketball player. They were laughing. They were joking. They were maybe even some would say they were flirting with each other. And Jayden Daniels' mom shut that shit down really quick, to the point where she sat in between Jayden Daniels and said basketball player and was kind of giving some snide looks to this woman. she's protecting the house, I guess. She's Mama Bear protecting Jayden Daniels. Let Jayden Daniels live his life. Let Jayden Daniels.
It's a crazy strategic decision by a mother because okay, my son's an NFL quarterback. He's getting ladies left and right. Nothing I can do about that. That's just the fact of the world. And now he's talking to a Division I athlete who could give me some superstar grandchildren. Like, that's the one you need to be like,
not
hey,
playing the long game.
You need to talk to this, not some bimbo, like some bimbo in some random
Instagram
city.
model.
No, screw that. You want the genes, like Juju, what was her name? Juju Watkins and Jayden Daniels. They would have children who would run the world. Like, let it happen.
True, just like create this ultimate super child. True, she needs to be
Also,
steering him
Juju's
that
pretty
way.
good looking.
Oh yeah, she's attractive for sure.
She's a good looking girl.
I think this is just hilarious. Could you imagine your mom commenting on your dating life, like being popular like that, and then having your mom being there front and center, like, no, not for me.
You gotta date
what
her.
What a
Mom,
super awkward thing
please.
to have to go back into the locker room and having to discuss this with your teammates. Like, yeah, sorry, I had to break up with her. My mom didn't like her.
My mom said no.
Ooh, this just gave me a great idea for a new segment for us. We got to get Jayden Daniels. We got to get Jayden Daniels' mom, and we're going to do one of those YouTube dating shows with both of them.
MTV
I want
used to
Jayden
have a
Daniels'
show.
mom to rate him.
MTV used to have a show like Date My Mom. And we should try to spin that some way and see, like, girls got to date her mom.
Date my star NFL quarterback son.
Yeah. We need to spin that some way. I will say, on the heels of Xavier Worthy filing a lawsuit against his girlfriend, wife, fiance, for ripping his hair out and, like, doing, I forget how much damage to the property. It was like tens of thousands of dollars in property. I don't know if you guys saw this. He's now suing her because, and like pictures came out after the altercation, and like his hair was like ripped to shreds. Like there's multiple rooms in his house that were just like smashed. So it's like,
How much?
He did all
how much
that.
is right?
He did all that to. He did
maybe
all
Jayden
of that
Daniels
to
is right.
try and avoid jail time.
Right.
Okay, I got another segment idea. How much damage do you think you could do in like 12 minutes inside of Xavier Worthy's home?
A
like
lot.
a dollar
Oh,
amount.
like a smash room, but for somebody's whole house.
Yeah, but like the more you smash, the more you win.
That's kind of sick.
I
I mean, for an NFL player, probably a lot because there's probably a lot there. I'd
Right.
step on a lot of watches. I imagine
That's what I was trying to think if
I'd be
$10,000 worth
TVs.
of damage is actually a lot in his house. Like, I don't know if that's a lot. It
I don't
seems
know
like you
either.
could just throw a couple chains in the sewer and that's like $10,000
Yeah, like that would
right
be
there.
it. Yeah, I don't know. I will say this is almost. I mean, really unforgivable. She ruined his gaming room. So
Ugh.
Oh, okay,
That would
that's
be-
too far.
yeah.
Now I
That's
know
what
that
I
he
thought.
didn't. Now I know he wasn't trying to protect himself
Yeah.
because
Because it was
no
like,
sane
yeah,
human
no man
being
would do
would
that.
ruin their
No
own
man
gaming
would
room.
destroy
That's
his
effed up.
gaming setup. So on the heels of Jayden Daniels' mother, maybe she's maybe she's looking out for him the right way because you don't want your gaming setup destroyed.
Well, touche. I didn't put this on here. I don't know if this was you, Alan, or you, Scotty.
It's me. So I was just being stupid. I was thinking of like weird quarterback rooms because we were going through like all these QBs, and I was like, man, what's a weird quarterback room? And I came across obviously the 49ers right now having Brock Purdy, and I think we all know Brock Purdy and the work he's done, and I think his little baby face, sweet, cute little baby face, Brock Purdy from Iowa State, and then they have Mac Jones now, and I was just thinking of something in my head, like, what if you're in that facility for the first time? Because none of them have like attributes that stand out. It's not like Cam Newton where you have like a unique hair design. You're like, oh, that's Cam Newton. They look, Brock Purdy and Mac Jones look like if you were to have AI say, draw me a white guy. And that's what those two both look like. And I was just wondering, like, what an odd quarterback room. Because like if I would almost be wondering if people would get them mixed up. You know, when you
Mac
have like
Jones,
two kids that look the same, you're just like,
he looks like
Bruh.
he's gonna be the creepy dad
he's on his
in
way.
like a couple years. He looks like he's just gonna be like that creepy dad that thinks he's really funny, but everybody else thinks he's just kind of awkward. That's what just looking at Mac Jones, that's the impression that I get. And also the other thing that I kind of think is he looks like he's like a Minecraft character.
Oh, or he plays Minecraft.
He's just got like a square head.
Yeah, I bet you he plays a shit ton of Minecraft. The other thing I was thinking, because we love to do this all the time
Nerd.
too. Mac Jones and Brock Purdy, I thought it was funny because they always you've seen those memes where it's like, can you believe these two guys play the same sport? And it's like DK Metcalf and like a kicker. I was thinking it was funny because I was like, if you put Brock Purdy and Mac Jones next to like Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen, like these like physically imposing guys, and you just had them stand there, like these guys play the same position in the NFL. You're like, bullshit. Those two work at a law firm or sell me cars. Those two definitely look like quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know why I thought that was funny. I just thought that was such an interesting quarterback room. You basically have the same looking guy, same looking white guy, starting and backing up, whichever order you want to put them in.
Sure. Okay, look, I think this is a good segue to discuss our top 10 quarterback rankings. So we've each brought 10 quarterbacks to the table today, and we are going to rank them from top to bottom. As far as, and I believe the criteria, gentlemen, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is if we were starting a franchise today, who we would want as our starting quarterback. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
You're nodding your head. Yes. Perfect. Scotty, you're at the top here, so give us your number one quarterback.
Number one, easiest question ever. Like elementary, not even a conversation.
I'm going to interrupt you before we do this because I know this is going to be a constant conversation throughout this entire segment. So, like, coaching, what is that? How does that play into our decision making? Does it play into the decision making? Do these quarterbacks that we choose come with their coaching staff? What does that look like?
This is good.
Yeah, that's going to get more complicated down the line.
Okay,
right
so
now though, it's still easy for me.
Yeah, let's say it's aggregately, not in any name, it's aggregately a top coach. Maybe it's not like the best we think overall, but it's
we'll
like
say Sean
tier.
McVay is going to coach all of these players.
Yeah. Okay. Sean McVay.
Okay. Sean McVay is the head coach no matter what.
And they have a middle of the road defense. They're not going to outright win you games, but they're not going to outright lose you games. But you still have to go put in some work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay. With all that said, easy number one, of course, Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, arguably the best quarterback ever, at the very least, certainly the best quarterback in the NFL right now. I know we've had some lackluster seasons, but there's still no doubt in my mind, if I'm starting a team right now, I am 110% taking Patrick Mahomes and not even thinking twice.
Okay. Alan, you're up next on this list.
Yeah, shocker. Same. I think it's Mahomes for multiple reasons. I think we've seen him throw 50 touchdowns in a season. We've seen him do it all when he needs to, and we've also seen him just win games in different ways that he needs to. He's the most accomplished right now, so he gives you the can he do it factor, and he can do it in multiple ways. And then obviously, like, he's a warrior. He's not going to have that availability issue. He's going to be out there. He's going to be playing, and so he would be definitely number one for moi.
Yeah, and every time he gets an ankle injury, he gets better. So,
yeah,
it's crazy.
That's true. I think it's unanimous here. Patrick Mahomes is who I have chosen as well. I got the hiccups. This is good podcasting. For everything you guys just mentioned, and I really, what drives me home as far as why to choose him alongside with the things you said is he's won. He knows how to win. He is a winner, and he has proven that time and time again. So, I mean, these last few years, we've had conversations about the Chiefs as far as like, okay, is this going to be their down year? What's going on here? And they're still finding ways to succeed, and it's because of Patrick Mahomes. So he's my number one. He's all of our number one. That is of no surprise. And my quarterback for number two is also of no surprise. It's Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen, he's a physically imposing, insane athlete, and he's a hell of a quarterback. And yes, he has not won the Super Bowl. Yes, he's struggled at times. But overall, if you took Josh Allen away from the Bills are nothing and nobody. Josh Allen, there's a reason he won the MVP this last year. And I mean, he is an upper echelon elite quarterback. He can do it with his legs. He can do it with his arm. He's also a winner, not of a Super Bowl, but he is a winner, and he is a dog, as a lot of guys call him. I like Josh Allen a lot. I've got him at number two. And Alan, who is your number two?
Yeah, this is great podcasting so far because we're just echoing each other, same sentiment. We're not yelling at each other yet. The yelling will come. I think we're going to get to some yelling. I think this was a toss-up for me. It was I was really between, and I know a lot of people will probably turn heel at this because I think maybe people felt like a certain quarterback from Baltimore should be here, but I was really between Burrow and Allen on this one. But I had to give the nod to Allen. Obviously, just we're talking about availability is kind of like the theme for this podcast right now. But he's just a tank. He has everything you want from a quarterback. He's a great leader. He obviously is fiery. I love that in a quarterback. If I'm picking one, I like a guy that is a competitor. And honestly, like if he was in the NFC, I think he probably would have already played in a Super Bowl or multiple Super Bowls or won one already. I think that the unfortunate thing is coming out of the AFC, you just have a gauntlet. There's just so many good quarterbacks that you have to navigate through to get to the Super Bowl. So he is my number 2. The one thing when I was jotting these down, because I was scribbling kind of on a notepad before I put them on our sheet, was like, I would love to see Josh Allen in a dome. Like, could he play in a dome for a while? Because he gets to the playoffs and like he's really good, but then he's like playing in just the shit Buffalo weather. And I know a lot of people will find that endearing, but like, I also want my best players to play in the best, most optimal conditions they can. And I think I would love to see Josh Allen in a dome at some point. I'm kind of furious that the Bills didn't build a dome with their new stadium because that's such a miss.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also strategic too. You're playing the Dolphins in the dome, and they're not used to snow.
Oh, I totally get it. I get why they do it. It's just I'd rather him throw for 400 yards every game and just be running around on a turf field with no cares in the world.
At this point, I'm not sure there's another quarterback I would rather have in the snow. Like, if this ranking was top quarterbacks you'd like to draft if every game was a snow game, Josh Allen's number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. Or Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, or Jalen Hurts. Yeah, as long as he's got that offensive line.
Yeah.
Good deal.
For sure.
That's true. Scotty, who's your number 2?
I'm also going Josh Allen. You guys said pretty much everything. I think it's interesting that 95% of people, if given this, given the task of putting this list together, would put Patrick Mahomes at number 1, and then I think number 2 and number 4 would be just a shit show. I think a lot of people would disagree with this, but I'm with you guys. I would take Josh Allen.
Okay, then who's your number 3?
Number 3 is Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson, of course, is going to be the one that everyone is always like, oh, you guys are disrespecting Lamar Jackson. But to me, Joe Burrow, what we saw, as long as he's healthy, which is the biggest indictment on him, and granted, yes, he's had superstar wide receivers the whole time he's been in the league. But when you see Joe Burrow, you see a winner. And ultimately, I think with the tape that he's put out, he is maybe one of, if not the best technical quarterback in the NFL right now. And as long as he's got some semblance of weapons around him, I think Joe Burrow is going to find success so long as he's on the field.
Okay. Alan, you have Joe Burrow at number 3?
I do not. I actually, for the aforementioned, as Scotty was alluding to, I have Lamar Jackson at number 3. I think it's obviously close, and a lot of things separate this. A lot of the knack, if you get into the talk on the interwebs, is one's been in a Super Bowl, one hasn't, one has MVPs, one doesn't, and it's kind of like a back and forth between all of them. For me, I think I love Lamar Jackson's ability. I think he's like a matchup nightmare. He can throw it, he can run it. He's just like such a dynamic athlete that it puts so much pressure on the defense. And as much as I love Joe Burrow, and I think he is up there, I think one of the delineating factors for me with Joe Burrow is just the talent that he has at wide receiver. I think makes up sometimes for some of the decision making that Joe Burrow does have. I mean, listen, you get 2 of the best wide receivers you get to throw it up to. Like, you don't actually need a ton of ability. I think it's super helpful, and I think we saw it last year where they were just like on God mode when they're all together. But the one downside for me for Joe Burrow is one, he gets hurt, and I know it's probably a product of his offensive line, but he's not very durable. You can't tell me. I mean, other quarterbacks are getting hit as well and not going out like that, and so durability is certainly a concern. But for me, it's just kind of like that dynamic nature. So I had Lamar Jackson at 3.
Okay, I have Joe Burrow at 3 as well. I think Scotty really touched on everything that I had to cover on Joe Burrow. I think in large part the thing that is fearful for me is his offensive line, and we're just picking quarterbacks. We're not picking all-star cast of an offensive line, so that certainly plays into it. But I think Joe Burrow from we talk about the eye test sometimes on here, and I really think Joe Burrow passes the eye test for me as far as, and I mean, obviously he's done it the last few years now when he has stayed healthy, but from a technical standpoint, just like Scotty mentioned, his ability to play the role of quarterback and do it at an incredibly high level is that's why I have him at number 3, because I think he is the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL. And now to number 4, this is where things are going to get a little bit more dicey, and I'm probably going to catch some flack for this. I've got Jayden Daniels at number 4. If I'm looking to build a team, and granted, Jayden Daniels was a rookie last year, but You talk about blowing expectations out of the water. That is exactly what Jayden Daniels has done, not just for myself, not just for the Commanders organization, but for the entire NFL community. Nobody had Jayden Daniels doing what he did last year. And I think that that's a testament to not just his coaching, but a testament to his character and who he is as an individual and the type of athlete that he is. Jayden Daniels is going to be one of the best quarterbacks that we have seen in a long time. I really do firmly believe that, and that's why I have him at 4. And I'm going to catch some flack because Lamar Jackson has usurped him on my list.
Usurped.
Yes,
is what you mean.
Thank you. But I think Jayden Daniels. You talk about the mobility of Lamar Jackson, and Jayden Daniels is right alongside there. I think Lamar Jackson from a mobility standpoint is just a little bit better, but Jayden Daniels, I think his ability to move the ball down the field and throwing wise is why I have him at number 4. And I'll touch on Lamar Jackson when I get to him in our rankings. I don't want to show my hand yet, but I would rather have Jayden Daniels if I was starting an NFL team today over Lamar. So that's why I have him at 4. And we'll pivot back to you, Alan. Who is your number 4?
Yep, 4 is where I have Joseph Burrow. Like everything you guys have just said it recently why he was number 3. Like, he's just a prototypical quarterback. He can sling it. You can miss me with all that aura shit though. I'm so tired of that bullshit from him. That's such a fake manufactured bullshit thing. He's a good quarterback, and I think he knows how to win. He's won at every level. He's been through it. He's come back from injury. He's not very many times do you have a quarterback in your top 10 that is a 2-time comeback player that he is, but he's done it. He's put in the work. And so I think, he definitely knows how to command an offense. He's like, you could argue he's probably has the most just flat out quarterback skill. Like, everything is just technically sound. And so Joe Burrow there at 4 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Scotty, who's your number 4?
Yeah, I'm going to Lamar. Obviously, the Jayden Daniels thing is crazy to me. And it's crazy for one reason, because he's done it for 1 year. And the big problem with the argument that you made is he is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, okay?
I'm starting an NFL team.
I get it. But we've already seen the best quarterbacks in the NFL do it at an extremely high level for years. Lamar is one of those people. The only reason I don't have him above Joe Burrow, because like Alan said, the matchup nightmare that he is makes him that's why I think he's always going to be, as long as he's capable of running like he is, he's always going to be a top tier quarterback in the NFL because of that, just the difficulty he gives defenses. But ultimately, when I am picking a quarterback, what I want is somebody who is going to buckle down in crunch time and get it done. And we've seen Joe Burrow do that. We've seen Josh Allen do that, as long as he's not playing Patrick Mahomes. We don't really see Lamar do that, which is why I dropped him to number 4 on this list. But ultimately, if I was starting a team and I was picking 4 and I ended up with Lamar Jackson, I'm not going to complain.
Okay. Who's your 5th quarterback, Scotty?
Number 5, CJ Stroud.
Okay.
CJ Stroud.
Hold on. Is this not... you pick CJ Stroud at 5.
I knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not exactly the opposite of what you just said for the reasoning for Lamar Jackson being number 4? Because there's other quarterbacks that are on your list that have done more and better than CJ Stroud and have won it at the highest level. Is that not a little suspicious there, Scott?
Mm-hmm.
It's not at all suspicious, you pervert. It's not suspicious one bit. And the reason is because I'm not putting CJ Stroud above Lamar Jackson. And so I think it's perfectly acceptable for him to be here. Ultimately, CJ Stroud, what we saw in his rookie season was incredible. Yes, you're going to make very similar arguments with Jayden Daniels. But CJ Stroud, I just have the feeling, Jayden Daniels obviously has the upside is the moon, but he sort of has a gimmicky aura about him, where it's like you could see Jayden Daniels falling off a lot more than I can see CJ Stroud falling off. I see CJ Stroud being more technical. I see his skill set carrying on longer into his career than I see Jayden Daniels. Not to say Jayden Daniels isn't awesome and might win the MVP for 10 years in a row. That could happen. But when I'm picking a player, I would pick CJ Stroud over Jayden Daniels at this point. And hopefully Jayden Daniels continues to perform at a high level. But I feel safer with CJ Stroud if I'm picking a young guy without a lot of experience. And ultimately, another key factor in this is I think CJ Stroud already has a further developed leadership quality about him. Whereas Jayden Daniels, his persona is very impressive in the way that he doesn't seem to get rattled by anything. But CJ Stroud, I feel like, will pick up a locker room. He will give the speech at the end of the game and pick up your guys. And I want that type of person on my team. So I think that's what gave him the edge in my mind.
Alan, who's your number 5?
I know he's giving you a lot of shit for that Jayden Daniels thing and seemed to pull.
Yeah, then he throws CJ Stroud in there.
Pull the CJ Stroud
after Lamar Jackson.
Kind of interesting.
Yeah. Well, I guess that is true. A little something to be said there. This one might piss Scotty off. I have Justin Herbert up there.
Really?
For no other reason than I was thinking in my mind, like, now that we have the McVay backdrop of that's who's going to coach him, I really like that because I think Herbert definitely has all the talent in the world. I remember Justin Herbert's very first game he played because I don't know if you guys remember this because it was I forget, like first or second week of the season, and they're playing the Chiefs, and it was I think it was in Los Angeles. I can't remember if they had moved at that point. I'm pretty sure they did, but it was supposed to, was it Tyrod Taylor was going in, and pregame he was getting a shot, and the doctor kind of like fucked up the shot. And so he
stabbed him in the lung or something.
Yeah, it was some crazy thing where then he couldn't play, and then Justin Herbert got in. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, easy. Like, this kid's never even played. What are we doing? And from that very first game, he was just throwing dimes, just dotting people, just throwing it all over. And I think with McVay, I think somebody like Justin Herbert could really benefit from like getting like a little bit more of a killer instinct in him that he hasn't had to develop, because he's just kind of like, he definitely has all the tools to be amazing, but he just doesn't have that killer instinct. Like, I'm going to go out and just like surgically dominate somebody and get out of the way. And so I love that out of Herbert. I think he's one of the more like arm talented quarterbacks. I think you could even put him like 2 or 3 if you're just talking about just like ability to pass in the pocket. So that's why I put Herbert there.
Okay. My 5th is Lamar Jackson. I have him right under Jayden Daniels. I've said this before, and I will say it again. I don't believe Lamar Jackson will ever win a Super Bowl. I firmly do believe that. I think that when it comes to crunch time, Lamar Jackson folds. And that's not to take away the fact that he is an incredible athlete, but he doesn't have that win factor that I really am looking for in a quarterback. And there are I have a lot of concerns with Lamar Jackson down the stretch. He's not getting any younger. We see that one of Lamar Jackson's greatest assets is his legs, and as he continues to age, that will be a declining asset. And so, 2 years ago, I said the same thing about Lamar, and I said, this guy can't throw the ball. And I know he listens to the show. I know he is a critic of mine, and to his testament, he has developed his throwing ability quite a bit more, which has qualmed that thought a little bit for me, but I still don't think he is a top tier upper echelon thrower of the ball. And I am concerned with his ability to move the ball downfield with his arm without his legs, because his greatest asset is his availability to extend the plays. And as he gets older, I think we see that less and less. I don't think Lamar Jackson's ever going to win a Super Bowl. I do think he's a great quarterback, but I think he is going to age himself out by the time maybe they have a roster that's ready to do it.
Do you think you mentioned that's a spicy little nugget? I kind of like that. Do you think? I wonder what Baltimore thinks about that. That front office. I wonder how, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's interesting. I don't think you're wrong though. I don't think you're wrong at all, because I think you're absolutely right. I think, when does that window close? Everybody's got these windows.
Yeah.
Everybody's concerned, like, hey, is Buffalo's windows closed? Or Bengals windows closed? Like, all these windows open and close. Teams are going to keep getting better. You're gonna get older, like your windows close as a Chiefs fan. Like, the window's gonna close at some point. When's that gonna be? And I wonder for Baltimore, that's a great point and like great discussion topic that we should definitely dive into, because it's like, is it over? Is that closed? Like, was the last year, not this last year, but the year before that, where they hosted the AFC title game, like, was that their best chance to get to a Super Bowl with this team? And is that closed?
I firmly. I mean, you look at the assets around him. Like, you lean on Derrick Henry a lot this last year. He's not getting any younger, and he still looks incredible. But he's what, 32, 31, 32? So, like, he's getting old. And you lean on him quite a bit, and he still showed that he's got gas in the tank, but that's a fading asset. Mark Andrews, he's getting old. I mean, he even just this last year, he showed that he's not playing at the highest level that he used to. Realistically, Rashad Bateman was a bust for you as a Ravens fan, and you drafted him with high hopes of being a top-tier wide receiver. That didn't happen. And now you have Zay Jones. And it's like this team they've missed on quite a bit of things. And what they do have is aging assets. So I really, as long as Lamar Jackson remains a Raven, unless that front office really goes chips all in, I don't see them ever even competing for a Super or getting to the point where they're playing in a Super Bowl. I don't believe that they will.
That's the interesting thing here is like if you were to just not tell me anything that's ever happened in the season, but say I have a 2-time MVP on this team and here's all the statistics he had, and then you say he's never actually even played in a Super Bowl. You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
How's he not even played in one? I think that just underscores the difficulty it is to even get to a Super Bowl. I think a lot of us as casual fans are like, oh, he's never played. Like, you know how hard that is to like just think about all the greats in the NFL and how many of them not only like didn't win a Super Bowl, like didn't even get to go play in a Super Bowl. Like it's tough. It's really tough.
It is very
I agree with you. I agree with you.
It is very tough. The next quarterback I have is Matthew Stafford. I have him at number 6. And that may come as a surprise to people. You know, I literally just dogged on Lamar Jackson for being an aging asset, and then on number 6, I've got Matthew Stafford. But, God, I have so much respect and admiration for Matthew Stafford. And even, you know, he's also not young, but his talent level is amazing. I mean, the guy can sling the ball. He is incredible at reading defenses. And we did choose Sean McVay as the head coach, so that also helps, I suppose. But
it's just a crazy choice. He's 37.
He's too old.
He's playing great ball.
He's
playing
too
great ball.
If the he's that classic reference. No, if the list was who's the best quarterbacks right now, I think Matthew Stafford is definitely in that conversation. But the list is you're starting a franchise.
Okay, fine.
There's
fine.
no chance.
Nope, you gotta leave it. Ink's dried.
Nope. I got the eraser.
You talked him out of it, Scotty.
You talked me out of it. Fine. Give me CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
Give me CJ Stroud.
There we go.
CJ Stroud, and you had him already, Scotty, at number 5. I really like what this kid brings to the table. You know, especially in the leadership category. He seems like, you know, obviously he's still learning and he's got a lot to learn. But he carries himself and he's very composed in a leadership quality we even saw it his rookie year. I mean, he was playing great his rookie year, but like he didn't seem like he was a rookie. He didn't act like he was a rookie. He acted like he had been a veteran in the league for multiple years and was doing a lot of things as far as the team building is concerned. And the Texans, everybody was sitting there scratching their heads saying, what the hell are the Texans doing here? They got CJ Stroud and then they went and traded up to get Will Anderson. And I'm like, dude, are the Texans, if they missed on either of those, like you just tanked your team. And instead what you did was you went through a quick rebuild very quickly and you really hit with CJ Stroud. I think, you know, he was in a little bit of the sophomore slumps this last year. His offensive line did him no favors. And then he lost a lot of wide receivers along the way. Nico Collins, largely all of his wide receiver core was injured for a good portion of the season. So I have a lot of faith in CJ Stroud as a quarterback, as a young quarterback, and as a leader. So I scratch Matthew Stafford. That's fine. Put CJ Stroud in at number 6 for me.
I like that.
Alan?
I like that very much. We're going to aggregate these, right? And then post a list. We should do that.
Yeah,
feels right
that's fine.
For this. And let people yell at us for being idiots.
I'm fine with that.
It feels appropriate. My number 6 is Jayden Daniels. Not too far off from Samia's. Looking at Scotty's list. But I think Jayden Daniels, looking at what he brings to the table, you know, he's a Heisman winner. You saw what he did in his first year. He had even coming off. If you look at that year in the chunks, like he started super hot. Then he had a bit of a lull, and people are like, oh, okay. And then he picked it back up again. I think that's really hard to do. And I think it's really, like, even mentally to, like, get down where maybe things aren't clicking as well, and then to come out and then go to the NFC title game and then run into the buzzsaw that was the eventual Super Bowl champion. Like, there's nothing to sneeze at. And I think for this Commanders team, I think, you know, he's given them hope, and I think he's shown what he can do. And if he can replicate it, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we're doing this at a point in time, but I think for me, he looks like he has all of the capabilities in the world. He mentally, like, he understands what he's supposed to be doing, and he's just like super gifted. So I have him as my number 6.
Okay. Scotty, who's your number 6?
He didn't expect me to be the highest on this guy, but it's Jalen Hurts. He
Like
is
it.
very controversial among NFL fans because
Very.
a lot of people have him higher, and a lot of people are like, nah, he's not even in the conversation. Ultimately, I see the upside, I see the downside, and I'm also kind of at a point in my list where I think you can make pretty good arguments for moving these guys around one spot or two spots. But Jalen Hurts, first and foremost, is now a Super Bowl champion. He's got the pedigree, and he's performed on the biggest stages. He also brings a unique skill set to the table, similar to like a Lamar Jackson conversation, where you know that if you are coordinating a defense against Jalen Hurts, you're like, oh shit, like we got a whole nother layer of things that we have to prepare for. But again, I fall back on this quality that is just so important to me when it varies so much between players, and it dictates how much I respect a player or how much I think a player is going to have success, but it's his leadership. You know, Jalen Hurts is a stoic leader. He's someone that doesn't seem to get too emotional all the time. He's someone that just kind of grabs the respect of the players around him, so much so that, you know, he had to keep Nick Sirianni from acting like an idiot half the time on the sideline. And I want that in a quarterback. I want a quarterback who, you know, whether you're winning or whether you're losing, you look at your quarterback, and if the only information you had about a game was a screenshot of your quarterback's face, you have no idea how the game is going. And I think that's such an important quality in a leader on a team, and that's why I have him ranked above some of these other guys. Ultimately, I'd be happy. I'd be happy to have him on the team.
Okay. And who's your number 7, Scotty?
Number 7 is Jayden. I think, like I said, you can mix these guys around a lot. Jayden's got his upside is through the roof. And what we saw is certainly impressive. I just, ultimately, to move him up the list, I just need to see it replicated. And I think what I said earlier is probably kind of controversial among NFL fans. He's a little bit gimmicky. And what I mean by that is I don't know how well his skill set translates into future success or sustained success. I don't know if this is going to be an outlier season. His rookie year was kind of an outlier, or if he's going to be, you know, this is a bad example because I don't think it's going to get this bad, but it reminds me of like Daniel Jones, where you see him on the field, you see him lighting it up, having a ton of success, and then it just kind of falls off and you never see it again. And part of me with his frame, with his play style, that worries me a little bit, but ultimately the skills that he showed on the field, the accuracy, the calmness, gives me faith that he is going to have success for a long time.
Okay. Alan, who's your number 8?
I like those, Scotty. By the way, I don't know if you probably don't need.
Wait, are we out of line here?
No, we are. I'm on 7. We're on
Okay,
7.
Sorry.
7. I had highlighted one too early as we're going through this list. This is great podcasting as we're like highlighting a doc as we go through. Number 7. I had CJ Stroud. I think after Jayden Daniels, CJ Stroud is. I think he showed me a lot. Statistically, wasn't amazing his first year. I think it was a lot of based on like potential, like look what he could do. It didn't largely follow up with that the second year, but a lot of that wasn't necessarily his fault. I don't think. I think you could attribute a lot to that, like just the team around him, like getting injured. One of his wide receivers had a horrific injury in Kansas City. It's like they just dealt with a lot, and I think that's a really tough season for him to go through. But he still played hard. He still had a good head on his shoulders, and I think for me, like obviously, like arm talent is really big. Like being able to get the ball out. And I think he does that. Texans have a lot to look forward to, even though last year was seen as kind of like you want to keep building. I think if they can get healthy, I think it's good. But I know that's not really what we're talking about for this. It's putting him with McVay. And if I'm putting him with McVay, I think I really love the upside that gives me for him is in his ability to spread the ball around.
Okay. I have Jalen Hurts at number 7. And that's, kind of going back to what Scotty said. It's interesting because, I had CJ Stroud over Jalen Hurts, and Alan, you still haven't even said the name Jalen Hurts, so I'm interested to see if/when you get to that point. Jalen Hurts, just like Scotty said when he said Jalen Hurts, like there's still a lot of controversy of is he a good quarterback, and that's something that I think holds some ground. Him winning a Super Bowl certainly helps elevate him in that conversation, I think, but largely like. Eagles fans even are not 100% sold that Jalen Hurts is the guy, and Eagles fans aren't 100% certain on anything. I think they ride by,
Yeah. They're just perpetually pissed off, I think.
Yeah, they're always angry, and they're always very emotional as far as like, all right, this guy did me wrong, he's dead to us. And so, but Jalen Hurts, I do think he is a good quarterback. I don't know if I'll ever get him up in my top 5 because it's hard for me to sit there and say this guy is an amazing quarterback when you look at his surrounding talent. And for the large majority of Jalen's career, he has had good talent around him to help him succeed. And I think that's where part of the conversation of, that's where Jalen Hurts gets snubbed a little bit, is because they look at the surrounding cast and like, okay, you've had A.J. Brown forever. You've had Devontae Smith forever. We added Saquon Barkley. You have Dallas Goedert. Like, you have all these you have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. Like, he's continually made excuses for why he's not there. But at the end of the day, kind of like what Scotty said, he is a very stoic leader, and he's great with the ball. One of the games that comes back to my mind is when they lost in the Super Bowl. And I'm not talking about him sitting on the sideline staring when the confetti's going down at the thing, and that's his background picture on his phone. But what I am talking about is that game, Jalen Hurts played a damn near perfect game. And it came down to the wire and they lost it. But like that game, I think of Jalen Hurts' performance on the biggest stage at the highest level, and he played lights out. Like, they didn't lose that game for lack of Jalen Hurts taking care of the football. Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I do believe that, and his mobility certainly helps in that area, but I still think from a like the ability to throw the ball, I still think he probably is better than Lamar Jackson in that category as well. So I got Jalen Hurts at number 7, and I need to pull up who I have at number 8. It's going to be Justin Herbert, gentlemen. Justin Herbert, I do think he's had his ups and downs, and I don't think that's his fault largely. I think it's just been due to the front office and the Chargers organization in general as far as why Herbert hasn't found success at a higher level yet. But I think, from a tactician standpoint, watching what Justin Herbert is able to do and his ability to move the ball, the guy's got a cannon. He's proven he can do great. He's just proven that he also had Brandon Staley as an offensive head coach or offensive mind, and he's had just Kellen Moore, just a slew of bad decisions and lack of development in some areas. So I have Justin Herbert at number 8, and I will pivot back to you, Alan. Who is your 8th quarterback?
Number 8. Listen, my criteria is gunsling and arm talent. My number 8 is going to be controversial. I have Baker Mayfield.
That is bold.
Oh.
That is bold.
You look at Baker's ability, and I think some of it was questioned after the Browns, but then you kind of you just remember what the dumpster fire was that the Browns are / continually might be. But you look at what he did with the Bucks and what he's done so far. I don't think there's any denying that he can throw the ball. He can win. He can put the ball where it needs to be. He's fiery. He's a competitor. I think I think he had that, in the brief stints he's had in different spots, I think there's a lot to be said. And I think putting him with somebody like Sean McVay in an offense that can go produce, I think he has all the talent in the world to go do that. And I think he can go get it done. And we talk about all the time on this podcast how, if you're in a different situation, things would have been different. And I think this is 100% Baker Mayfield. I don't think there's any surprise, or I don't think it's any surprise now if you look back and you see like what he's done with the Bucs these past couple of years, that he can get the ball where it needs to be. He can go win games. He almost beat the Chiefs in that Monday night game, and he basically had all of his wide receiver room out, and he was still out there just slinging it around. And it's like he can play. And if I'm going to go start a team, I really like what Baker Mayfield does with his arm and his ability to get the ball and spread the ball around to different targets.
That's God, I don't know if anybody else here has Baker Mayfield in their top 10. I really don't.
The way that I look at it is Baker Mayfield is like the perfect consolation prize for this draft. Like if you don't get the players you really want and you end up with Baker Mayfield, that's awesome. Like that's the greatest situation if you don't get the rest of your top 10. But I'm not taking him over any of the guys that I have on this list.
Yeah, that's tough for me because it's in a small window. I mean, at one point in time, Baker Mayfield, let's not forget, was playing defensive line for the Panthers. That's at the level of where his career was going to. And yeah, he's shown, a resurgence since being with the Bucs, but God, I just think they're better options. I think they're better options.
Okay. We were talking about 1 year windows, but like last season, how many touchdowns do you think Baker Mayfield threw last year?
I'm going to say 28.
Scotty.
I have no idea. 34.
Last year, Baker Mayfield threw for 4,500 yards and threw 41 touchdowns.
Pretty good.
But what about Mike Evans?
let me tell you something else. He's done something. He's thrown for more touchdowns in 4 seasons. 4 of his seasons have been more touchdowns than Jalen Hurts has ever thrown in a season.
Yeah,
And Baker Mayfield's done that 4 times.
Okay, let me.
You're talking about production.
Let's talk. Let's get into the philosophical conversation of quarterbacks versus wide receivers very quickly. Could you not argue? And I think it goes both ways. So I'm not saying I'm on one side or the other, but could you not argue that wide receivers also help make a quarterback's career?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Would you argue that it's more paramount to have good like a wide receiver makes a quarterback's career than a quarterback makes their own career?
Well, I think you're only as good as the people around you, obviously. Yeah. Like, I think you're only going to... Yeah, I mean, very obviously. I agree.
Okay,
so... Where are we going?
Well, and where I'm going with this is like... so, I'm going to ask this question again. I want both of your opinions. Do the wide receivers make a quarterback as great as they are? Do they make a quarterback's career?
I think at the top level...
Yeah.
We're talking NFL,
yes.
baby.
No, I'm talking top level of the NFL. I think pretty much always yes.
Because you look, and I'm going to provide some examples here. None of us have Sam Darnold on the top 10, but he had a career resurgence last year that got him a 3-year deal with the Seahawks. Geno Smith, nobody had him writing home except for Geno. Look what he did with a great cast of wide receivers. Baker Mayfield, another quarterback that comes to mind. So can you not make the argument that let's look at Drake May. Right? Did Drake May get a fair shake because he didn't have any wide receivers?
Yeah. I mean, ultimately...
I would agree with you if Mike Evans didn't miss like 8 games last year. You forget Mike Evans was hurt a lot of last year. So your argument has a giant hole in it because the biggest prize to that wide receiver room barely played, and he still threw for 41 touchdowns and still threw for 4,500. I think when you break it down statistically for Baker Mayfield, I think he's shown more often than not that he can get the job done versus some of the peers statistically. Like CJ Stroud hasn't thrown for any of these amount of touchdowns and interceptions. Like the rating, the ratio, if you break it down, if you take out a few years where he was kind of like hot pocketed around from the Panthers to the Rams and then finally to the Bucks, like it's pretty productive. He's pretty productive, and you have to remember he's only in year 7, 8. So it's not like he's aging. He's going to age out. So I guess that would be my giant argument for him is that he has done something that not a lot of quarterbacks on this list have done statistically over time.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. I ultimately think Baker Mayfield is an above-average quarterback, and I would take him, Slapdog offered the examples of, some questionable examples like Geno and Sam Darnold. I would put him above that category, like, hands down.
Oh, no, I would too. I would. Don't get me wrong, I would too.
It's just a question of, as we go through these lists, I don't know that there's a single player any of us have named that I would take Baker Mayfield over, and I don't think there's a single player any of us will name that I would take Baker Mayfield over.
That's fair.
Okay. Who do you got at number 8, Scotty?
Oh, I got Mr. Jordan Love. This is a guy another one of the young guys who I think just has a huge ceiling. But
here's a guy.
This is a guy. No, I think his ceiling is crazy high, but what put him on this list for me is the fact that he, kind of going back to the Baker Mayfield conversation, he doesn't have that superstar 1A wide receiver. This is a team with a lot of talent, don't get me wrong, but the talent has sort of been developing alongside each other, and he is making the wide receivers more talented, I think, than maybe what they otherwise would be. When Jordan Love took the reins, we didn't really know what to expect from this young core offense, and Jordan Love ultimately demonstrated that with him at the helm, they can compete with the best of the best in the NFL. And I think that is when you're talking about a young quarterback, we talk about their personality or the way they handle adversity or whatever. One of the big qualities that you look for in a young quarterback is, can you get it done in suboptimal situations? And I wouldn't say it's terrible, obviously, in Green Bay, but you also don't have a Jamar Chase. You don't have one of those huge weapons that you could argue is carrying them to success. So that is really impressive to me. His leadership quality, his ability to kind of sit back, learn from Aaron Rodgers, take the reins, and then find success on his own with a young, unproven team is just amazing. So I would have all the faith in the world that he would find success, even if the rest of the roster doesn't shake out exactly how I want.
Could you imagine being in Jordan Love's situation where you genuinely don't even know if your time's ever going to come? Like that thought had to have entered his head multiple times throughout his career. It's like, am I just going to sit here and watch Aaron Rodgers play for the next 5 years and then, like, you know, never even have the opportunity? That is such a... I don't think a lot of people think about that or realize, like, that was a potential for sure. And so for him to come out and play like he is, I like Jordan Love at 8. Scotty, I think that's a really, really great one. And I don't think Scotty's here to give us his number 9.
Did he leave us?
I don't think he loves us anymore.
Let's give them his number 9.
Okay.
Did we give him?
It's Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
I just gave it. It's Justin Herbert. Scotty's number 9 is Justin Herbert. I am interested to see why he chose Jordan Love over Justin Herbert. It's no surprise that Herbert's on this list. I think we all have Herbert, you know, on our top 10. But I am interested to see why he has Herbert over Love. So we'll put a pin in that and ask him when he returns. And let's go to you, Alan, for your number 9.
Yes, sir. Number 9, I have Jordan Love. We just talked about him. I think he's shown that he can do it. He seems to get better as the year goes on. I think for me, I would love to see him kind of perform at that level throughout the year, like give his team, because, you know, this is all about playoffs. It's all about seeding. It's all about, do you get home field? And I think for me, Jordan Love, he can do it at the end. And I think he's going to largely live until he can replicate it off of that just shellacking he gave the Cowboys in the playoffs. And I think he should. He definitely has the talent. The talent around him, maybe not. I think he does really well with some of the pieces that are there. I think one of the greatest ifs, you know, we just talked about this, like, what if you gave him a receiving core, you know, like the Bengals, let's say, and you could go out there and just do something with that. But I think Jordan Love definitely is super talented and is worthy of being in the top 10.
Okay, Scotty, why did you have Jordan Love over Justin Herbert?
Oh, sorry. I forgot that I was supposed to go again. Justin Herbert hasn't ever done it, is the problem. And I know
done what? Because what's your stipulation? Because what has Jordan Love done that Justin Herbert hasn't done?
Justin Herbert has never instilled in me the confidence that he is going to find continued success regardless of situation. And on top of that, he has trouble staying on the field. I think Justin Herbert, you know, we talked about him earlier. He's got all the natural talent in the world, but Alan called it the killer instinct, and I think that's a good way to describe it. You don't see that with Justin Herbert. I see that with Jordan Love. I see Jordan Love taking the field and saying, I don't give a shit who gets in my way. I'm going to win this game. Mm-hmm. I don't see that with Justin Herbert. I've never seen that with Justin Herbert. So ultimately, I think Justin Herbert can develop further, but he's been in the league long enough that, like, we're still talking about he can develop or he can maybe achieve this. It's like, okay, at some point, the leash gets too short. And so I think he deserves to be in the top 10, but that's why I would have him, you know, where I have him below the players I've already named.
So are you essentially calling Justin Herbert a cuck?
I wouldn't say that. That's what you said.
Yeah, I put that as a headline.
Justin Herbert cuck ? I also have Jordan Love at number 9. I don't think we need to spend any more time on that. I think he's you guys have pretty much covered that. My last one, however, y'all are going to give me some shit for this, and I'm wholly prepared for it.
Let's see it.
It's Caleb Williams.
Okay.
I thought about putting him on here.
It's Caleb Williams.
I thought about it.
It's Caleb Williams.
Hey, that one year, let's hear this, because I'm with you. I already know I'm supportive.
Look, especially here at the end of the list, things are going to get interesting. I think Allen's number 8 was the last, you know, the interesting pick for Baker Mayfield. Caleb Williams, I really do believe is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. I firmly do believe that. And yes, I understand. We saw him last year. We saw what he was capable of. It didn't look great. I think if you take Caleb Williams and you pair him up with Sean McVay, you're going to get a vastly different result. I think Caleb Williams' talent level is there. I think we even saw glimpses of it last year. They were in games in contention, or they were contending in games that they shouldn't have been. They were close to winning games in spite of the fact that Matt Eberflus was the head coach, and that's because of Caleb Williams. I think the kid has talent. I think he has a vast amount of talent. And I think this year, Ben Johnson is going to... I don't know if we're going to see a complete paradigm shift this year, but I do think we're going to see a very different product of what Caleb Williams is, because he's not paired with a fucking idiot named Matt Eberflus, and he's going to develop him. The kid has the skills. We saw it. He had no offensive line, which the Bears are also fixing. I think he's, I don't want to say a Patrick Mahomes light, because I think that's somewhat disrespectful to Patrick Mahomes, but I think he is a similar archetype of player where he can extend the field with his legs. He can make crazy throws. He can do all that. He just needs a supporting cast and a competent offensive mind to help him get there. I think we saw glimpses of the talent there. At least I know I did, firmly enough to put him in my top 10 list. I really do think Caleb Williams, if I was to start a franchise today, I would take him at the 10th overall pick if Sean McVay was my head coach.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I think that's sneaky good. You got to remember statistically, like, nothing's going to jump off the page of you, but I mean, he did have 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Like, statistically, he was okay. And largely, if you watch any of those games, I think the only thing the eye test for him is that he seemed a little lost, like, in making the first read, which is 100. You could attribute to coaching 100%. Like, Eberflus isn't. Could you imagine if Eberflus and Sam Darnold got into a room together and like had to talk about something?
That's a Hard Knocks episode right there.
Just like what? I'm not even sure they would talk about football. I think they would just. I don't even know what the hell they would talk about.
The colors on the wall.
Yeah, they would talk about Lincoln Logs and like what things they could build. Like, I don't even think it would be football, but I think Caleb Williams. I like that because I thought about putting him on there just because of the potential and like what he could do with an actual like offensive minded coach. So
I think this is crazy. This is a crazy
Oh,
conversation.
it's not crazy.
I think it's crazy because you don't like Caleb Williams because he paints his nails.
Yeah.
Well, painting your nails definitely is a negative against him, but keeping it back to football, I agree with you that we don't know what his ceiling is yet, but the we don't know thing is what defines Caleb Williams right now. We just don't know. We saw him make some good plays. We saw him make some good decisions. We also saw him look like a fucking moron half the time on the field.
Nice.
And you could say, well, it might be coaching, it might be offensive line, it might be this, it might be that, but we just don't know. So, like, putting him above, even Baker Mayfield. I would take Baker Mayfield over Caleb Williams. If I'm starting a franchise today, I'm taking Baker Mayfield over Caleb Williams 10 times out of 10.
Mind,
just because we don't know.
No.
We don't know.
Never mind.
Yeah, but that isn't that part of it?
It's
Oh yeah,
part of it.
It's part of the rolling the dice. I see what you did.
It's only part of it to an extent, though, because ultimately, when you're picking a quarterback, I do think if the draft that Caleb Williams was picked, obviously picked number 1 overall, that's among all players who have never played a down in the NFL. If you're going to redraft with a bunch of players who have already played downs in the NFL and you have a large sample size and you can feel more confident that they're going to show up consistently day in and day out, Caleb Williams goes way down the list. So
he's young, he's athletic, he hasn't proven, but he's shown or showcased that he has the capacity to play at a high level. I'm in on Caleb Williams. And what's going to be crazy here is I almost pushed out Justin Herbert to put Bo Nix on here. I did.
I would have fought you on that.
I would have
I
rather you done that than pick Caleb Williams.
Ooh, gross.
I think Bo Nix is going to be really good too. I really do. I think this quarterback. I think this class of quarterbacks, this rookie class last year, is going to be talked about for a long time.
Charlie on the LeatherBrainz team. He's going to kill me. But Bo Nix, I think he's going to regress in the worst way next year.
I hope so.
I don't think he will. I think it depends on what the Broncos do as a front office and like what tools they give him. But I think he has the capability to succeed if they give him some assets.
Yeah, I think he's going to
some
regress.
ass.
Who's your number 10, Alan?
My number 10, I debated not putting on this list, but I did. And I know he's higher up for your other people, is Jalen Hurts.
Wow, at 10.
Jalen Hurts at 10. Again,
Super Bowl winning Jalen Hurts at 10.
I mean, yes, a lot of quarterbacks won Super Bowls that you probably would never put in your top 10.
Carson Wentz. Super Bowl winning Carson Wentz.
Kenny Pickett.
At 12. Kenny Pickett. Why Jalen Hurts at 10? I mean, that seems... What is interesting to me, given your list, is that you have Jalen Hurts below people like Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, Jayden Daniels. Why did Jalen Hurts fall so far for you?
Because if you break down, like, here's the thing with Jalen Hurts, and if you're going to put somebody from Philadelphia that's like a big Jalen Hurts supporter right in front of me, they're going to be like, well, look at all the things he's done. And I think largely the discussion around Jalen Hurts is about what he could do. It's very like the conversation you had with Caleb Williams. Sure, Jalen Hurts probably could throw for a lot and like could lead an offense that maybe doesn't need to lean on running the ball. Like, people forget last year he didn't have Saquon Barkley and he got bounced in Tampa Bay. Like, they were out and they had virtually the same roster they did now. And then you fast forward, well, then what did they do? Well, invested in some defense, and then they gave him Saquon Barkley, and now the team won a Super Bowl. So largely the only things that changed around Jalen Hurts were basically they took the keys away from him to be successful. And I think,
and I want to interject here for just a moment.
Let me finish. Jalen Hurts has only thrown for over 20 touchdowns twice in his career. Last year, he only threw for 18 touchdowns. Like, he didn't have to do very much. And so when you talk about what have you done, while I think Jalen Hurts may be capable, if I'm ranking a list of people that have actually done it, I think statistically for him, and yes, he's shown up in the Super Bowl in big ways, and largely it's just he's shown out, and so he can do it, and he has won a Super Bowl. But I think, why didn't you put him above Joe Burrow then? Because Joe Burrow hasn't won a Super Bowl. Well, it's because your eyes tell you, I've seen one person be able to play this position like I know it should be played as a quarterback that can distribute the ball. And I've seen another largely be, it's chicken and the egg. Like, is it because of his surroundings or is it because of him? You know, Caleb Williams threw for 20 touchdowns in his first career. And, you know, Jalen, out of the 4 years he's been a starter, has barely done that, you know? And I think for me, it's just what can you produce at that level, and have you been asked to produce in that level? And I would be willing to guess, if you put a gun to all of Philadelphia's head and said, would you rather have Saquon Barkley run it 30 times or Jalen Hurts throw it 30 times? They would tell you Saquon Barkley, and that is the only answer you need to hear.
Well, Saquon Barkley only ran for 50 yards in the Super Bowl. And Eagles fans are going to sit there and tell you Jalen Hurts is the reason they won.
What was the reason they got to the Super Bowl?
I'm not going to argue with. I'm just telling you what Eagles fans are going to tell you.
Oh, I know that. I know I'll probably get reamed for this, but I think if you look at what got them to the Super Bowl, you look at what happened to the year prior, and they say with a straight face that it was because of Jalen Hurts, they're all lying to you.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. There's questions around Jalen Hurts. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think you've seen him show up when he's supposed to, but definitely there are questions. The argument that I would make to Allen is we talked many times about this season about Joe Burrow's performance, which was amazing. There's lights out in 2024. And Allen would always say, well, their defense was ass, and so he had to do that. Like, he had to do it. That's the only reason his stats were that high, is because if he didn't do that, they weren't going to win any games. And so he was put into the situation. And I think the opposite argument can be made for Jalen Hurts, that he didn't really have to do it. The stats aren't a good argument for him because he's always had this massive offensive line, and they've always had the ability to move the ball on the ground. Not to this degree with Saquon Barkley, who's the best running back in the NFL right now, but you know, if you put him in a situation where he has to do it, can he do it? So I agree, there are question marks there, but I think he does deserve to be in the top 10. And I think you can make a coherent argument about where you put him from 6 to 10, but I think he deserves to be there.
Yeah, I think you're splitting hairs with the top 10. Like, he's in the top 10. I think there's something to be said about that. I think, you know, for me, if you're a starting team, I just don't know if he can do it. Can he do it for a prolonged amount of time? And you could surmise based off like certain moments, like here or there, like, could he do it? I think you could do that for a lot of quarterbacks, that you could say, well, then maybe why doesn't somebody else deserve to be top 10 then, if not them? And, you know, winning a Super Bowl, as much as, and I know Scotty might kill me for this, like, I love that Mahomes gets all the praise for winning Super Bowl. That's a team thing. You know, you win those things as a team. You know, that's very rarely do you go about and do that singularly. And so I think large part for what happened there is,
was there a real thought for you to take Jalen Hurts off and put Caleb Williams on, or was that just in jest?
No, I was dead serious. I was laughing because I sat here and I was like, I already have Baker Mayfield on here. Should I throw Caleb Williams on here again and say, like, if I'm going to go start it, like literally, if you had a front office in front of you and you're like, I'm going to go start a team and I know what I want my team to look like, and Sean McVay is my head coach. Caleb Williams or Jalen Hurts is actually more discussion than people want to let it be. I don't think it's anything about the resume. I don't think it's anything to do with the resume and total of like, oh, he made it to this far, or he made it to this far and he won a Super Bowl. I think it's literally like, you look at statistically what they are capable of doing in the seasons they've had. And I didn't put him on there because I still would probably trust Jalen Hurts more in this scenario, just because of the fact that like you said, like he is a leader, like he's a dude. He knows he's tough. He has all the one-liners he says at press conferences that everybody eats up. I get all that. He looks good. He's a good-looking dude, but like
yeah, he is.
The ability to be a productive quarterback. That's one thing to say he has the ability to do it, and it's another thing to say like I've actually seen him do it. And I think for Jalen Hurts, like you still haven't seen him do it for a year to like carry a team. And the argument I made, like being last year, like that was his opportunity to carry a team because they needed him to do that, and he couldn't do it. Get him to the finale. Whatever happens in the Super Bowl is largely just a crapshoot because it is a one game. But it's like through a season, can you carry them to be to that point? And I haven't seen it.
But you thought about putting Caleb Williams on there at 10, who also hasn't shown that
he hasn't. But that's like you had him on there. It's the mystery of the unknown for me. It's like, oof, he's got a lot of talent. Put him in the right situation. Like
I think he does.
He can chuck it all over the place.
Okay, Scotty, you have Caleb Williams at 10?
No.
Yes, he does.
No, I would never do that. I don't want some guy who I don't know. I also, with Caleb Williams, have no idea if he has any leadership qualities whatsoever. I haven't seen that at all. Like, and that's a real big question mark for me. If you're going to have a quarterback in your locker room, I don't know if he is capable of rallying the team at all. I don't know. My number 10 was, I struggled with this one a lot. I thought a lot about it. And ultimately, I settled on Jared Goff. And the reason I settled on Jared Goff is because...
You like the Lions.
Because you look kind of like him.
Yeah, I've heard that before, and I don't see it. With my mustache, it's really hard to tell. But when
shave that. You kind of do.
You give little brother Goff vibes.
Oh, he'd be my little brother. Actually, I don't know who's older. I think we're about the same age.
No, he's older. I think he's 32.
I think he's 30. I think he's exactly my age.
old
I just don't know
is
when his
Jared
birthday is.
Goff? Jared Goff is 30, October 14th in 94. Scotty, you are the
older by
older
13
brother,
days.
Jared Goff.
Let's go. Suck it, Jared.
He probably
you're
can't
in my
grow a
top
mustache.
10.
He probably can't grow a mustache.
Yeah.
That's okay. I would trade lives with him right now, so I think he wins.
Don't tell.
But I decided on Jared Goff because I see him in a similar skill category right now to Matthew Stafford. And I know they're linked because of the trade and all that stuff. But I do see them as, like, if I had to choose between them to run my team for a season, I think it'd be kind of a hard choice. And Jared Goff is ultimately, nearly a decade younger than Matthew Stafford. And I see similar qualities in them, and I feel a consistency with Jared Goff. I don't think he's going to necessarily blow you out of the water every week, but I do think that there's going to be some level of consistency there. And the reason I struggled with it the most is because this Lions team is just so freaking stacked. And I don't know if that is warping my perspective of Jared Goff a little bit, because there are weapons freaking everywhere on this team. But I've seen him have success over and over and over again, and I think he's capable of being consistent.
I don't hate that. He had success with the Rams. I think they just kind of hit a wall with him, and I think McVay knew what he wanted and went out and got Stafford, but I don't hate that.
Okay, I know we're running low on time here, but is there concerns that the Lions regress without Ben Johnson?
I don't think so. I think Ben Johnson still has a lot to prove. Obviously, they had a lot of success and they did some crazy stuff. But again, it's the same argument I just said for Jared Goff, the same one I've used for Dan Campbell, and I'll use it for Ben Johnson too. This front office completely flipped this team around, like single-handedly. And I think you could replace any one of those pieces in this offense, and they would still find a ton of success because there's so much talent on this roster. I think it's arguably the most talented roster in the NFL. And I know you can look at the Eagles and whatever, but they're right up there in that conversation. So for Ben Johnson, it's like maybe, but ultimately I think you could pick up any run-of-the-mill offensive coordinator that isn't in a coma, and he's going to find some success with this team.
Just shit on
Ron Rivera.
Yeah, Ron Rivera's had success in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl. He needed Cam Newton, but he won a Super Bowl.
All right, touche. Okay, I appreciate all your guys' top 10s and as well as the banter. Very quickly, I'm going to bring 3 moms of these quarterbacks to the table.
I forgot we were doing this.
We got to do this. And we're gonna rate them on I don't even know if there's a scale or not. But we're gonna rate their
1, 2,
moms.
or 3. That's Alan's scale. 1, 2, or 3. Wait,
Yeah, 1, 2,
0,
or
1, or
3.
2.
Oh yeah,
What
it's
was
0, 1, or 2.
0, 1, or 2. Okay, let's start with Baker Mayfield's mother.
Okay.
Okay.
Her name, oh man, I don't even know what her name is. Gina Mayfield.
Gina Mayfield. Come on down.
Gina Mayfield. Oh man,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
she looks like a good church-going lady.
Okay, remember, for those of you that are unfamiliar with the system of 0, 1, and 2, 0 is I wouldn't, 1 is I would drunk, 2 is I would sober. And that's really all this. It's really bad. And I'm sorry for anybody listening, but that's just the scale.
We didn't
That's
make the
just
scale.
what it is.
We're just following the scale. I'm gonna
Yeah, we're
put
just
I'm gonna
following
put
it.
Gina Mayfield at a 0.
I am going to second that opinion. I am not interested.
We're putting her as she's firmly a 1 for me. I think with
Okay.
like 2 or 3 just like scotches, like I'd be down.
Is she a good conversationalist?
I don't
I know
know.
we don't know that.
Yeah. I don't know.
What pickup line would you use to get her?
I ranked your son in my top 10s list.
She's a hell yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite Corinthians verse?
That's what you'd ask her, huh?
Yeah, she looks like she'd get off on that.
Yeah, like which book?
I don't know what that means.
No, she's a 1 for sure.
Let's do Nancy Goff, Jared Goff's mother.
All right, Nancy. See what you got, Nance.
All right.
This is such.
And by the way, if you're just listening, make sure you go over to Spotify or YouTube or X because we got video and we're showing pictures.
Yeah,
It's
we're gonna,
perverted and awesome.
This is bad. This is so bad. All right, Nancy.
2.
Let's go, Nance.
2.
I'd
Oh,
give her
yeah.
a 1. I'd give her a 1.
I give her 2.
Oh, she's a 2.
Yeah, she's a 2.
Oh, she's a 2. You would need liquid courage.
Yeah.
No.
How old is this woman? 60?
It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
That matters a little bit.
You're not gonna marry
It matters
her.
kind of.
Yeah.
You're not marrying her. You're not sharing like financial futures with her. You're just,
Here's the thing.
Honestly,
once you get
probably
above,
still should.
yeah.
Your
once you
son's
get above
Jared
the
Goff.
age of 50, the human body develops hairs in weird places, and it grosses me out.
You ever heard of a razor?
Yeah. What do
I
you,
have.
You think she's just untamed? Just
She's
letting
She's
it
a
on
go?
wild beast down
think-
down yonder.
You think sweet freaking Nancy is just neglecting everything?
Oh, she is
I think
sweet,
Nancy
all
has
right.
been married for a long time and has since long ago let go of the idea that she needed to tame all of her wild
No,
hairs.
I disagree.
I
Jared,
disagrry
you're-
completely.
No
you're
offense,
listening to
Nancy.
this,
All due
she's a
respect.
she's a nice woman.
She looks like she partied back in the day. She looks like she knows how to have a good time.
100%. That's
Yeah.
the vibe I get. I would
Yeah.
100% take her to like a steak dinner and call her again.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, she's the kind of person that you call the next morning and are like, "Hey, what are
Oh,
you
yeah.
doing tonight?"
Be
If
like,
I got
"That
to
was
pay
fun.
for a
Let's do
steak
it again."
dinner also, then it's a 0.
You are a cheap
It's gonna,
ass.
it's gonna cost me money, and I got to do this.
Yeah, but you're also
No.
eating a steak. That's
That's not all you're eating. You might be eating beaver, baby.
Let's go, Scotty. Let's put that mustache.
Yeah.
Let's put that mustache to work. Make like Velcro down there.
All right. Last quarterback's mom. This quarterback was not on our list, by the way.
Oh, I like this.
Dang.
Brock Purdy's mom,
Ooh.
Carrie
I
Purdy.
feel like she's a nice lady.
Oh,
And
she
I'm just going to
looks-
tell you, gentlemen, she's a 2.
If T-Mobile is following this right now,
She's a
they're like-
2 also? You
If T-Mobile
guys.
follows my search history right now,
There's
they're gonna
only
be like,
32 quarterbacks. Go look at Joe Burrow's mother. Alan compared her to E.T. before we clicked record.
I did.
I'll do respect.
Oh,
she's
yeah,
a 2.
I'll do-
Oh,
I'll do
she
respect.
is a 2. If you are on a boat with this lady and you're just
On a boat.
partying, and
Yeah.
you're like, yes,
That's where all
this
good
is-
things happen, dude.
No fucking way. There's no way you guys
Oh,
are serious
you are
about this.
crazy.
There is no way you guys are serious about
So
this.
she's a 1. You would need to be hammered.
Yeah, she's a 1.
No.
She's a 1.
No.
I would have to be very drunk. It would be I'd be towing the line between, alcohol induced ED.
No shot.
So like it might not happen anyway.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no shot. She's like a wake up in the morning, like, hello.
You roll over and you're like, oh, this was a good
Oh,
night.
nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, Miss Purdy. Carrie.
She looks like the kind of woman I would like to call and talk about my day with. But then if she starts flirting with me, I'm going to be like, I got to go. Or buy me 15 shots. Those are your options.
Dude.
Disappointed in you, Scotty.
Yeah, me too, man. She's a 2.
Maybe
don't think there's any way.
maybe Slaps and I are just awful.
Perverts. Disgusting.
We're just gross humans.
You're just like, oh, she's got a heartbeat.
Like,
She's got all her limbs.
go look
I'm
at Matthew
interested.
Stafford's mom. Matthew Stafford's mom is a 0.
Oh, let me see. She might be a 1 then.
She's I
All right, let me see.
really don't think so.
Very rarely is somebody not a 1 for me. Let me see.
Okay. I am. A lot of mean things are running through my head.
I
right now.
know. And that's where I'm saying Carrie Purdy
this.
is not the worst choice.
Okay, but you're presenting this situation like you're on a desert island. You have these options and you have to repopulate the earth. I'm saying you can just say no to all of them. You don't have to do it at all.
No, I'm saying you're just a single guy. You're hanging out. What would it take?
I would like to have someone who was born within a decade of me.
Oh, see, that's
Well,
not a
that's
pre-
going to
that's not a-
struggle here because all these quarterbacks are your age.
That's not a prereq for me.
I understand that all the quarterbacks are my age. That's why I'm not freaking Zach Wilson.
Okay, very rarely it's somebody not a 1, but she is pushing it. It would have to be a lot. I'd have to be very drunk.
Who, Matthew Stafford's mom?
Yeah.
Okay, last one.
Okay.
Zach Wilson's mom, Lisa Wilson.
Ooh.
She is a 2, and if you don't think so, Scotty, you are a delusional human being.
I agree.
Yeah,
She's a 2.
we got him.
Okay, all right, we got her.
This is what
Jeez.
they have to look like when they're 40. Or not 40. I don't know how old she is. 40's I'm 30, so 40's not that old. But you see what I'm saying.
She's probably 40.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, it's comfortable.
This
too.
this is the standard right here. If they don't look like this, it's going to take some alcohol for me to get interested.
That's really hard because I'm going to say this. Zach Wilson, he's one good-looking dude. Like, Zach Wilson is a very good-looking human being, and so he has to get his genetics from somewhere. His mom,
Yeah,
Zach, she's up there, dude.
she's not bad.
She's up there.
Comfortable too.
But she's had 6 children. Does that change anything for you, Scott?
Nope.
She's just experienced. That's good.
Actually 3.
All right.
Okay.
That is
We've
all.
lost so many subscribers at this point.
Yeah. Or maybe we've gained some. Maybe they appreciate our insight into the motherly viewership.
Side note, these are going to be all the clips I create.
Go follow us on X and Instagram if you want to see that.
Yeah.
Shit.
That's it. That's all the time that we have. I will once again plug here at the very end, March Gladness, baby. It is here, and we are giving away a free signed Kyren Williams jersey. It's super simple to get entered. All you got to do is go hit the subscribe button over on YouTube, go back over to X, retweet the tweet, and then put your username of your YouTube username in the comments section to get entered to win a free signed Kyren Williams jersey. It's March Gladness. It's the last week, and we are trying to spread the good love and joy of NFL football to the Brainiac community. So go do that to get entered to win a free signed Kyren Williams jersey. Brainiacs, appreciate you guys. This was a very interesting episode and quite fun. I enjoyed doing it, and we'll be back next week. Let's get the hell out of here. We
Are
Out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.